Báwo ni, my dear? Let's look at another jam recommended poem, shall we? This time around now we look at Bath by David Herbert Florence. This man went to San Vecchio, a city close to Florence in Italy, one day in the 20th century, a period when Europe enjoyed a great deal of industrialization, and made his observation known through this poem. Lawrence begins his observation by describing the scenery of the city. He says that when you sit on a terrace in Pisa, in the Tuscany region of Italy, you will see the beautiful transition from day to night with other beautiful views like the mountains of Carrara. My dear, a terrace is a platform that extends from a building. I hope you understand that. The sun looks dull and is described as the tired flower of Florence during this time. And as you know, the sun loses its vibrant nature when the day draws to a close, especially around 5:30 p.m. It is a breathtaking sight when the semi-warm sunlight shines on the 6 brown hills that surround the city of Florence. In subsequent lines, the poet asks his listeners to watch out for the green lights from the moon. The light shines every day around that time on the river Arno and turns the transparent color of the water to green. This is visual imagery. Visual imagery is when a poet appeals to your sense of sight and makes you paint a particular picture in your head. In subsequent lines, the poet directs the attention of his listeners to see various birds that fly around and enjoy the wonderful scenery created by the setting sun. The birds fly at twilight, a moment that comes just before everything becomes dark and invincible. The poet particularly singles out a group of birds amongst the flying creation. They are swallows. Swallows are birds that move from one place to another. They have long pointed moon-shaped wings and forked tails. The swallows fly very close to one another in such a way that they look as if they are sewing dark threads together like tailors. They appear not to fly directly in a straight line. They fly in circles and glide down or nosedive suddenly under the curved part of the bridge. The brilliant movement of these birds, as described by the poet, shows the freedom, liberty, and happiness that exist in these agents of nature. However, in lines 16 and 17, the poet is surprised at something. He is so surprised that the swallows are flying so late. Why must they be flying so late? It is unusual for them to fly around that time. Swallows are not meant to fly around that dark time. And they are also known to fly together as a large group. But these birds that the poet is specially saying are not flying that way. Therefore, in line 18, he rhetorically asks this question, whether they are really swallows. He then critically appraises the birds in flight. He describes the way these birds that don't really look like swallows are. The way they double their lines to make an opening is different from that of the swallows he knows. Their loops are not purely orchestrated. Their skins look like black gloves. He says that they look very ugly when compared to swallows. The poet uses the phrase dark life to compare the birds that he's presently seeing. These are birds that love to fly at night, a sharp contrast to swallows. The poet decides that these birds can't be swallows emphatically. He genuinely believes that they are bats. Oh! It is in this place that we discover that the poet D.H. Lawrence does not really like bats. He says his brain feels uncomfortable anytime he sees bats. Don't forget that he described them earlier on with beautiful adjectives when he thought that they were swallows. This time around, he describes the way they fly as that of a mad person. It is interesting to know that bats are called pipistrello in Italian language. However, the poet continues to show us his deep disgust for these birds by using words like black, which was a very offensive word during this time to describe them. He says that they sound so tiny, awful, and annoying. He says their wings look like tiny bits of umbrella. He doesn't like anything about these birds at all, including the way they hang themselves like old rags whenever they sleep. To accentuate his deep disgust for bats, he says that they look like old rags whenever they sleep twice. They further smile broadly when they sleep too, without their ugly body. Who does that? The reader may as well know that bats are adored in China. They are symbols of happiness. The poet says that that's their business in China. He does not and will not like bats. What are the themes in this poem? This poem explains how beautiful nature can be. Nature are the things around us that are not man-made. They are rocks, mountains, rivers, valleys, and animals. The poet chronicles his sojourn to Italy very brilliantly, highlighting the wonderful features that exist there. He mentions places like the mountains of Carrara, Ponte Vecchio Bridge, Arno River, and brown hills that surround Florence. The poet also appreciates the brilliant movement of the supposedly swallow birds around the Ponte Vecchio Bridge. The poet also shows that he has the right to like and dislike things. In China, bats symbolize happiness. However, Florence hates them. One is quick to also notice how the poet shifts from using lofty and soul-lifting words to describe the swallows in quotes. But once he realizes that they are bats, he shifts from using lofty and soul-lifting words. The poem also teaches that humans should understand the natural elements around them. Lawrence's ability to distinguish swallows from bats is visible in this poem. He even knows the time of the day when they fly. Therefore, he was able to easily distinguish their movements. Symbolism is one of the elements used in this poem. At a more figurative level, his disgust for bats represents his disgust at the situation in Europe after the First World War. Millions were killed, many were displaced due to the deadly weapons used during this war. This is a sharp contrast to what happened before the war. The birds fly peacefully, the environment was peaceful, rivers flow, and pure oxygen existed everywhere. The poet highlights this, and he tries to show how beautiful Europe was before things went south at the beginning of the poem by describing the beautiful scenery in Florence. However, bats that symbolize destruction and industrialization disrupted everything. He believes that other climes see industrialization as beautiful and fine. He does not, and he does not buy into that idea at all. The poem is conversational. You can call it dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue is when an individual talks as if other characters are there. The poet appeals to our sense of sight by mentioning visual and iconic places like the mountains of Carrara, Ponte Vecchio, Arno River. He also mentions the sun departing as if it is walking like humans. We are treated to kinesthetic imagery by the poet, as it describes with fluid words the brilliant displays by swallows around the Arno River. Hope you understand this poem, my dear. Send your questions. I'll see you another time. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.